Imagine, just for a moment, that your entire life is a vast stage and you're standing in the center under a single spotlight. The audience is silent, waiting for you to act, to speak, to decide. The curtains are drawn back, the scene is set, and yet, you hesitate. You think, I'll start tomorrow. I'll move forward when the timing is perfect. I'll take action when I finally feel ready. But here's the harsh truth that very few people are willing to face. There's no perfect timing. Tomorrow isn't promised. Every day that passes is a page torn out of the book of your life. And once it's gone, you can never get it back. This video isn't just another motivational speech you will forget 5 minutes after watching. What you're about to experience is a practical blueprint, drawn from ancient Stoic philosophy, a philosophy that has guided warriors, leaders, and thinkers for over 2,000 years. From Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king of Rome, to modern authors like Ryan Holiday, the Stoics have been whispering the same message through the centuries. Life is short. Act now. Build yourself through discipline. Transform your struggles into strength. Let me ask you something deeply personal. How many times have you caught yourself saying, I know what I need to do, but I just can't get myself to do it? How many dreams have you delayed because of fear, procrastination, or endless distractions? Maybe it's starting that business you've talked about for years. Maybe it's getting in shape, repairing a broken relationship, or writing that book. Buried in your heart, we all have something we keep putting off. And with each delay, guilt grows heavier, confidence fades, and the mountain seems taller. The Stoics understood this human struggle better than anyone. They lived in a world of wars, plagues, political chaos. Their challenges were different, but their inner battles were the same as ours. Their teachings offer a way out of this cycle, a path to regain control of your mind, your time, and ultimately, your destiny. This isn't about positive vibes or empty affirmations. It's about hard-earned wisdom, tested in the fires of real life. Over the next several chapters, you will learn 7 timeless lessons. These aren't just philosophical ideas to admire. They're practical tools you can apply starting today. You'll discover how to discipline yourself when emotions threaten to take over, how to crush procrastination and act in the moment, how to turn small habits into unshakable strength, and how to face challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. You'll see how living with purpose, guided by the 4 Stoic virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, can bring clarity and meaning to your life. And you'll learn the art of simplifying, cutting away distractions, so that every action you take carries weight and significance. But here's the key. None of this will matter if you only watch and nod along. Stoicism is not a spectator sport. It demands participation. It demands that you, right now, step into the arena of your own life and start practicing what you learn. Think of this video as a roadmap. I'll guide you through each step, but only you can walk the path. Before we dive in, I want to invite you to make a small but powerful commitment. If you find value in these lessons, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future teachings. Your engagement doesn't just help this channel grow, it helps spread Stoic wisdom to people who might be struggling silently, waiting for a spark to ignite their transformation. And if you feel deeply moved and want to support this work directly, consider using Super Thanks on YouTube. Every donation, no matter how small, goes toward creating more content that can change lives. Now, as we begin, take a deep breath. Let go of whatever happened yesterday and stop worrying about what might happen tomorrow. This moment right now is all you truly have. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Today, you take the first step toward becoming the person you are meant to be. In the grand theater of life, you are both actor and director, but it's not the words you speak that define you, it's the actions you choose to take when a curtain rises. Imagine a massive stage where every single person you know is performing. Some deliver powerful speeches, others rehearse endlessly, but only a few actually step forward and move the story along. The audience doesn't remember the one who simply talked about what they would do. They remember the one who acted. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy. Actions are the true measure of who you are. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, once wrote in his Meditations, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." It's simple yet piercing advice. Don't debate endlessly about ideals. Don't hide behind excuses. Don't spend your days describing plans and dreams. Just live them. In today's world, where social media encourages constant commentary, people often confuse speaking with doing. We live in an age where you can tweet about running a marathon and feel a false sense of accomplishment without ever taking a single step. You can post motivational quotes on Instagram while sitting in bed scrolling for hours. This illusion of progress is dangerous because it keeps us trapped in a cycle of talking, planning, and fantasizing while our real lives remain unchanged. Stoicism cuts through this noise with a sharp truth. You are what you repeatedly do, not what you repeatedly say. It doesn't matter how many books you've read about discipline or how many self-help videos you've watched. The only thing that matters is whether you act on what you know. But why is it so hard to act, even when we understand what's right? Almost everyone has experienced that strange moment where you know exactly what you should do, but you just don't. You know you should exercise, yet you keep watching Netflix. You know you need to study for an exam, but you scroll through TikTok instead. You want to start that business idea you've been talking about for years, but somehow there's always a better time coming later. This gap between knowledge and action is one of the central challenges of human life. It's not ignorance holding us back, it's hesitation, fear, and the constant sway of our emotions. Our emotions are like unpredictable weather. Some days you wake up motivated and energized, ready to tackle challenges. Other days, for no clear reason, you feel heavy and unmotivated, like you're carrying a storm cloud above your head. If you rely solely on feelings to determine your actions, you will live a scattered, inconsistent life. This is why Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca emphasize the importance of steady principles over fleeting moods. Seneca famously said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." In other words, if you don't have a clear destination, you'll be tossed around by every passing gust of emotion or circumstance. One day you'll chase one goal, the next day another, and you'll end up exhausted without having truly moved forward. Think about modern life for a moment. We live in a world designed to pull our attention in 1,000 different directions. Notifications ping from our phones. News headlines scream for our outrage. Advertisements promise happiness if we just buy one more thing. It's no wonder so many people feel lost and overwhelmed. Without a clear inner compass, we drift aimlessly, letting external forces dictate our path. This is why the Stoic practice of defining your purpose is so powerful. When you know what harbor you're sailing toward, you can ignore the winds that don't matter. You can focus your energy on meaningful action instead of endless distraction. Procrastination is one of the clearest symptoms of this aimlessness. Consider how common it is. A student puts off writing an essay until the night before it's due. A professional delays starting a big project until it becomes an emergency. A person who wants to get fit buys workout clothes, researches gyms, maybe even posts about their new fitness journey online, yet never actually shows up to exercise. These behaviors create a vicious cycle. First comes delay, then guilt, then anxiety, which makes it even harder to start. Over time, you begin to lose trust in yourself. Each time you break a promise to act, you chip away at your own confidence. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that the only way to break free is through decisive, present-moment action. Seneca offered a powerful image. While we guard our money carefully against thieves, we often let others and ourselves steal our time without resistance. Time is our most precious resource, far more valuable than gold, yet we squander it on trivialities. Think of all the hours lost to mindless scrolling, pointless arguments, or replaying past mistakes in our heads. The Stoic response is radical. Treat each day as a complete life in itself. When you wake up, ask, how will I use this day to live virtuously and act with purpose? This isn't about packing your schedule with busyness. It's about aligning your actions with what truly matters to you. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Behavioral scientists have found that motivation often follows action, not the other way around. We tend to think we must feel inspired before we can act, but in reality, taking even a small step creates the momentum that generates motivation. For example, imagine someone who wants to start running but feels lazy every morning. If they simply put on their running shoes and step outside, even if they only walk around the block, they are far more likely to continue. The action itself sparks the emotional drive to keep going. This principle is exactly what the Stoics taught centuries ago. Don't wait for perfect feelings, just act according to your values. Values are at the core of Stoic practice. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to focus only on what he could control, his own thoughts, choices, and actions. Everything else other people's. Opinions, external events, random strokes of luck were beyond his power. By narrowing his attention to the controllable, he freed himself from endless frustration. Think about how relevant this is. Today, you can't control the economy, the weather, or the outcome of every decision others make. But you can control whether you show up fully, whether you keep your promises, whether you live with integrity. When you focus on these controllable actions, you reclaim a sense of agency. Take an everyday example, traffic. Most people become furious when stuck in a jam, honking horns and cursing at the cars ahead. But no amount of anger will magically clear the road. A Stoic response might be to turn that time into an opportunity. Listen to an audiobook, practice deep breathing, or simply accept the moment as it is. The external situation hasn't changed, but your internal experience has transformed. This is the power of focusing on what you can control. And it's not just about stress reduction, it's about using every situation, even the frustrating ones, as fuel for purposeful action. Purposeful action is what separates a meaningful life from a wasted one. Imagine two people working the same job. One sees it merely as a paycheck, trudging through each day with resentment. The other views it as a chance to develop skills, contribute to others, and build a foundation for future goals. The external circumstances are identical, but the internal orientation is radically different. This inner shift comes from clarity of purpose. When you know why you're doing something, even tedious tasks can take on a sense of significance. Viktor Frankl, a psychologist who survived Nazi concentration camps, famously wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." The Stoics would agree. A strong sense of why fuels the courage to act, even under harsh conditions. This brings us to the heart of the journey. How do we bridge the gap between knowing and doing? Knowledge alone is never enough. If it were, everyone who's ever read a diet book would be healthy, and everyone who's ever attended a productivity seminar would be wildly successful. The problem is not information, it's transformation. To transform, you must internalize principles through repeated practice. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write his meditations to sound wise. He wrote them as personal reminders, daily exercises to align his actions with Stoic virtue. Likewise, we need consistent rituals that ground us. It might be journaling in the morning, setting clear daily intentions, or reflecting at night on whether we lived according to our values. These practices turn abstract ideas into tangible habits. Consider the difference between someone who vaguely wants to be more disciplined and someone who sets a concrete routine. The first person drifts, waiting for motivation to strike. The second person decides, for example, to wake up at 6 a.m. and spend 30 minutes on focused work before checking their phone. Over time, that single disciplined act becomes a cornerstone habit, shaping their entire identity. James Clear, in his best-selling book Atomic Habits, reinforces this Stoic insight. Small, repeated actions compound into massive results. This is why the Stoics urged us to focus on today, this moment, this choice, because the future is built out of countless present decisions. As we explore the 7 Stoic lessons that follow, think of them as lighthouses guiding you through the fog of modern life. Each one offers a practical way to cut through confusion and move toward meaningful action. You don't need to master them all at once. Even applying one principle consistently can shift the trajectory of your life. For example, if you simply practice distinguishing between what you can and cannot control, you'll save yourself from endless wasted effort and anxiety. If you cultivate the habit of starting small, you'll overcome the paralysis of procrastination. These are not abstract philosophical puzzles. They are tools for daily living. Before diving into the specifics, pause and consider this promise. By the end of this journey, you'll have a personal action map, a set of guiding principles you can return to whenever you feel stuck or uncertain. This map won't eliminate challenges, but it will help you navigate them with strength and clarity. The Stoics didn't promise a painless life. They promised a meaningful one, built on the solid foundation of virtue and deliberate choice. Picture your life as a story still being written. Right now, you hold the pen. Every action you take is a line in that story. You can't erase the past chapters, but you can decide how the next chapter begins. Will it be another page of hesitation and regret, or a bold turn toward purpose and growth? The Stoics urge us to choose boldly, to act with integrity, to live as if today were both our first and last day. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. As we move forward, keep this image in mind. A storm-tossed ship searching for safe harbor. Without a clear destination, the ship will drift endlessly, battered by waves of distraction and fear. But with a fixed point on the horizon, every gust of wind, even the unfavorable ones, can be harnessed to move forward. Your purpose is that harbor. Your actions are the sails. And the wisdom of Stoicism is the compass that keeps you on course. From here, we embark together on a journey through 7 powerful lessons, each one a beacon in the darkness. They are not meant to be admired from afar, like museum artifacts. They are meant to be lived, tested, and embodied. As you read and reflect, don't just think about these ideas. Try them, practice them. Let them shape not only your thoughts, but your daily choices. Because in the end, it's not what we say or believe that defines us, it's what we do. Discipline is often misunderstood in modern culture. Many people hear the word and think of punishment, strict rules, or a lack of freedom. But the Stoics saw discipline in a completely different light. For Marcus Aurelius, discipline was not a prison. It was the key to real freedom. In his meditations, he repeatedly reminded himself that a free person is not someone who does whatever they want whenever they want. That, he argued, is actually slavery to impulses, to desires, to fleeting moods. True freedom comes from mastering yourself, from having the ability to choose your response rather than being dragged around by urges or emotions. Think about it. If every time you feel angry, you lash out, are you really free? If every time you feel lazy, you skip the work you promised yourself you would do, who is in control, you or your emotions? Marcus believed that until you govern your inner world, you will always be at the mercy of the outer world. This perspective feels incredibly relevant today. Our modern lives are overflowing with distractions. Notifications pop up on our phones every few minutes, tempting us with endless entertainment or shallow validation. Advertisers spend billions to manipulate our desires, making us feel incomplete unless we buy the next gadget, the next trend, the next upgrade. Social media algorithms are designed to keep us hooked, constantly chasing likes and comments. In such an environment, the idea of doing whatever you want isn't real freedom. It's simply letting external forces push and pull you like a leaf in the wind. Discipline is the anchor that prevents you from drifting aimlessly. It gives you the strength to say no when the world tries, to scatter your attention, and yes, when your deeper values call you to act. The Stoics taught that life is divided into 2 realms: the things we can control and the things we cannot. Epictetus, another great Stoic thinker, opened his Enchiridion with this simple but powerful idea. Some things are up to us, and some are not. Our thoughts, choices, and actions are within our control. Other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, random accidents, these are not. Most human suffering comes from confusing the two, from trying desperately to control what we never could, while neglecting the one thing we always have power over, ourselves. Discipline begins with this distinction. When you stop wasting energy fighting uncontrollable forces, you free up enormous strength to focus on what truly matters, your own behavior. This is easier said than done. Our emotions are powerful, and they often lead us astray. Imagine you've decided to save money for a big goal, maybe buying a home or paying off debt. You have a plan, you've done the math, you're motivated. Then one day you see a flashy advertisement for the latest smartphone, and suddenly your plan wavers. I work hard, you think. I deserve this. In that moment, emotion overrides reason. Later, you feel regret, even shame. Without discipline, these small moments accumulate into a life of frustration and missed potential. The Stoics were not against emotions entirely. They acknowledged that feelings arise naturally, but they warned against letting emotions dictate your actions. Marcus Aurelius compared it to being a puppet with strings pulled by outside forces. Discipline is the process of cutting those strings. So how do we cultivate discipline in a practical, everyday way? The Stoics emphasize small, consistent actions. Epictetus advised his students to start with something manageable and repeat it until it became second nature. This is similar to how modern psychologists talk about habit formation. For example, if you want to become more focused at work, don't set a vague goal like I will be productive. Instead, choose a specific ritual. Every morning, I will spend 15 minutes on deep, undistracted work before checking my email. Over time, this small act strengthens your mental muscles. It's like lifting weights you don't start with 300 pounds on the first day. You start light and build gradually. Each day of practice adds another thread to the fabric of your character. Journaling is another powerful tool the Stoics used to build discipline. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations was essentially his private journal, never intended for publication. He wrote to himself, reflecting on his successes and failures, reminding himself of what truly mattered. Today, we can do the same. Writing down your thoughts forces clarity. It allows you to see patterns in your behavior, to catch yourself when you're drifting off course. For instance, you might notice that you tend to break your exercise routine whenever you have a stressful day at work. By becoming aware of this pattern, you can plan ahead, perhaps scheduling workouts in the morning before stress accumulates. Self-reflection turns discipline from a vague ideal into a living practice. Discipline also requires a clear understanding of your core values. Without knowing what you truly care about, your efforts will lack direction. Imagine trying to navigate a ship without a map or a compass. You might be rowing furiously, but you could be heading toward disaster without realizing it. Take time to define your values. Honesty, growth, service, creativity, whatever resonates most deeply with you. When faced with a difficult decision, you can then ask, which choice aligns with my values? This question cuts through confusion and gives you a solid foundation for action. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, warned that people who drift without clear aims are like travelers wandering without a destination. No wind is favorable to the sailor who doesn't know which port he seeks. Modern examples of discipline abound. Consider a professional athlete like LeBron James. His natural talent is extraordinary, but without relentless discipline, that talent would have been wasted. His strict training routines, careful diet, and mental focus are all forms of self-mastery. Or think about a successful entrepreneur like Elon Musk. Whatever you think of his personality, his ability to work long hours and stay committed to massive, complex projects demonstrates a kind of disciplined vision. Even in everyday life, we see this principle at work. A parent who wakes up early to prepare breakfast for their kids before heading to a demanding job is practicing discipline. A student who studies a little bit each day instead of cramming the night before an exam is practicing discipline. These actions may seem small, but over time they shape destinies. For a more relatable example, imagine a software developer who wants to improve their problem-solving skills. Instead of waiting for inspiration, they commit to spending 15 minutes each morning writing code by hand, solving algorithm puzzles without relying on shortcuts. At first, it feels tedious. Some mornings they resist, thinking, "What's the point? I'm too busy." But they stick with it. After a few months, they notice a subtle shift. Tasks that once seemed difficult now come more easily. Their confidence grows. This is discipline in action. The daily practice builds skill, the skill builds results, and the results reinforce their identity as a capable, focused person. The cycle becomes self-sustaining. This is the real magic of discipline. It transforms ideas into actions, actions into results, and results into character. Without discipline, even the best ideas remain trapped in your mind. You might dream of writing a novel, starting a business, or running a marathon, but without consistent action, those dreams stay imaginary. Discipline bridges the gap between potential and reality. Each time you follow through on a commitment, you send a message to yourself: I can be trusted. I am someone who does what they say they will do. Over time, this builds self-respect, which is one of the most empowering feelings a person can have. It's important to note that discipline doesn't mean rigidity. Life is unpredictable. There will be days when plans fall apart, when external events disrupt your routine. The Stoic approach is flexible. Marcus Aurelius didn't expect perfection from himself. When he failed, he simply resolved to try again the next day. Discipline is less about never falling and more about always getting back up. It's about maintaining a steady course, even when storms arise. In this sense, discipline is a form of resilience. It's what allows you to keep moving forward when others give up. Some people fear that discipline will make their lives dull or joyless. They picture a monk living in silence, denying every pleasure. But Stoic discipline is not about deprivation. It's about alignment. When your actions match your values, you experience a deeper kind of joy. Think of a musician who practices scales every day. To an outsider, it might look boring. But to the musician, that practice is a source of fulfillment because it connects them to their art. Similarly, when you discipline yourself to act in accordance with your highest ideals, you feel a sense of integrity that no fleeting indulgence can match. Consider how this applies to modern challenges like health and wellness. Many people want to get fit, but they approach it with a burst of enthusiasm followed by burnout. They start an extreme diet or intense workout plan, only to quit after a few weeks. A disciplined approach looks different. It starts small, a 10-minute walk each morning, a commitment to drink more water, a decision to prepare one healthy meal per day. These small actions are sustainable. Over time, they compound into significant change. This gradual, steady progress is far more effective than dramatic but short-lived efforts. Epictetus would nod in approval at this strategy. It's exactly the kind of practical wisdom he taught his students. Discipline also protects you from manipulation. When you lack self-control, you become easy to exploit. Marketers, politicians, even toxic friends can push your emotional buttons and steer your behavior for their own purposes. But when you have a disciplined mind, you create a buffer. You pause before reacting. You ask, is this aligned with my values? Is this within my control? That pause is power. It's the difference between being a pawn on someone else's chessboard and being the player who chooses their own moves. In this way, discipline is not just a personal virtue. It's a form of resistance against a world that profits from your impulsiveness. Ultimately, the goal of discipline is not to limit you, but to liberate you. Imagine two musicians. One plays randomly, hitting whatever notes they feel like in the moment. The other has spent years practicing scales and technique. Which one has more freedom to create? Beautiful music? The second, of course. Their discipline gives them the tools to express themselves fully. In the same way, a disciplined life doesn't confine you. It expands your possibilities. When you can control your impulses, you gain the freedom to pursue meaningful goals without being derailed by every passing whim. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth while ruling one of the most powerful empires in history. Surrounded by luxury, flattery, and constant temptation, he could have easily become a tyrant or a hedonist. Instead, through daily practice of Stoic discipline, he maintained humility and focus. His example shows that discipline is not just for monks or philosophers. It's for anyone who wants to live with clarity and purpose, whether you're leading a nation, raising a family, or simply trying to be a better friend. As you reflect on your own life, consider where discipline could open new doors for you. What habits could you build to strengthen your character? What distractions could you reduce to reclaim your attention? What values could you clarify to guide your choices? Remember that every small step matters, even a single act of discipline. Choosing to meditate for 5 minutes, turning off your phone during dinner, speaking truthfully when it would be easier to lie can ripple outward, shaping your entire trajectory. In the end, discipline is not about denying yourself pleasure or living under strict rules. It's about creating the inner conditions for real freedom. When you are no longer a slave to impulses, fears, or external pressures, you can act with true autonomy. You become the author of your own story rather than a character swept along by random events. This is the kind of freedom the Stoics cherished. Not the freedom to do whatever you feel like, but the freedom to do what is right consistently and courageously. Far from limiting you, discipline unlocks the full range of your human potential. It is the foundation on which a meaningful, purposeful life is built. Seneca once said, "While we are frugal in guarding our wealth, we are reckless in wasting our time." This single statement captures one of the greatest tragedies of modern life. People treat money like gold, carefully counting every dollar, tracking expenses, making budgets, yet they toss away minutes and hours like they have an endless supply. The truth is far more sobering. Money lost can be earned back, but time is gone forever. Every moment you delay action, every hour you spend procrastinating, is a piece of your life you will never get back. And the worst part? Most of us know this, but we keep doing it anyway. We keep putting off the things that truly matter, telling ourselves, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'll do it when I feel ready." But tomorrow has a way of becoming next week, then next month, then next year, until one day you wake up realizing that your dreams have been buried under layers of hesitation. Procrastination is not just a bad habit, it's a silent thief. It steals your potential, your opportunities, and your sense of self-respect. The Stoics understood this deeply, even in ancient times. They didn't have smartphones or social media to distract them, but they had the same human tendencies toward delay and avoidance. The difference is that they saw procrastination for what it truly is, a form of surrender. When you postpone what you know you must do, you hand over control of your life to fear, to laziness, to fleeting moods. You become a prisoner of someday, a place that doesn't actually exist. Seneca's warning wasn't just philosophical, it was practical advice for living. He believed that the only time we truly possess is the present moment. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but right now, in this very second, you have the power to act. And if you waste that moment, you diminish your capacity to live fully. The cycle of procrastination is vicious. It usually starts small. You have a task you don't want to do, maybe it's writing a report, making a difficult phone call, or cleaning your messy kitchen. You tell yourself you'll get to it later. At first, this brings relief. You feel like you've escaped discomfort. But as time passes, a low hum of anxiety begins to build in the back of your mind. You know the task is still there, waiting for you. The longer you delay, the heavier it feels. Eventually, that anxiety becomes stress, and stress makes it even harder to start. You begin to doubt yourself, to feel overwhelmed. So you delay even more. This is the trap. Procrastination creates stress, and stress fuels more procrastination. Breaking free from this cycle requires a radical shift in perspective, and that's where Stoic philosophy offers profound guidance. The Stoics taught that our power lies in action, not in endless rumination. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." When you focus on what you can control, your choices, your actions, you regain a sense of agency. The key is to stop waiting for perfect conditions. Too often, we tell ourselves, "I'll start when I feel motivated," or "I'll wait until things calm down." But perfect conditions are a mirage. There will always be chaos, distractions, and imperfect circumstances. If you wait for the right moment, you'll wait forever. The Stoic approach is to act now, even if the step you take is small. As they understood, the present moment is the only territory where life truly happens. Yesterday is out of reach, tomorrow is not guaranteed. All you have is today. One practical strategy to overcome procrastination is the 2-minute rule. It's simple. If a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, do it immediately. No debate, no overthinking. Send the email. Wash the dish. Make the quick phone call. These tiny actions might seem insignificant, but they create momentum. Procrastination thrives on inertia. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. By knocking out small tasks right away, you build a sense of progress and reduce mental clutter. Think of it like cleaning a cluttered desk. If you remove one small piece of trash, it doesn't seem like much. But as you keep going, the space opens up, and suddenly you feel energized to tackle bigger challenges. For larger, more daunting projects, the Stoics would advise breaking them down into smaller, manageable steps. Fear often disguises itself as procrastination. When a task feels too big, our brains perceive it as a threat, triggering avoidance. The solution is to shrink the task until it feels safe. Suppose you need to write a 20-page paper. Instead of focusing on the overwhelming final product, commit to writing just one messy paragraph. If you need to declutter your entire house, start with one drawer. If you want to run a marathon, start by walking around the block. These small steps are not trivial, they're essential. As you complete them, you gain confidence, and confidence fuels further action. This is the essence of the Stoic idea of starting small, but thinking big. Progress is built through consistent, incremental effort. Modern productivity experts echo this wisdom. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, often says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." This perfectly aligns with Stoic thinking. Goals are important, but they can feel abstract and overwhelming. Systems, the daily habits and routines you build, are what turn goals into reality. If you want to stop procrastinating, don't just vow to be more disciplined. Create a system that makes action automatic. For example, if you want to exercise more, lay out your workout clothes the night before and commit to putting them on as soon as you wake up. This removes decision-making friction and makes it easier to follow through. The Stoics would see this as a form of preparation. By shaping your environment, you shape your mind. Consider a real-world example from the tech industry. A software company was facing a critical deadline. The team had been planning a major update for months, but progress was slow. Meetings were endless, ideas were debated, but no code was being shipped. As the launch date approached, panic set in. The project seemed too complex, too overwhelming to complete on time. Then one engineer suggested a radical shift. Instead of trying to perfect the entire system at once, they would build a simple prototype of the most essential feature and release it immediately. This stripped-down version wasn't elegant, but it worked. Once it was live, the team had tangible feedback to work with. Momentum built quickly. Within weeks, they iterated on the prototype, adding improvements step by step. What had once felt impossible became manageable because they stopped procrastinating and started acting. This story illustrates a core Stoic lesson. Action creates clarity. When you move forward, even imperfectly, the path ahead becomes clearer. Another powerful tactic is reframing your relationship with discomfort. Much of procrastination is simply avoidance of unpleasant feelings. You don't delay a task because the task itself is impossible. You delay because thinking about it makes you anxious, bored, or uncertain. The Stoics encouraged people to embrace discomfort as a teacher. Seneca advised his students to practice voluntary hardship, like taking cold baths or fasting, to strengthen their resilience. In modern terms, this might mean intentionally facing small challenges to build tolerance. For discomfort, for example, if you hate public speaking, start by practicing in front of a mirror, then to a friend, then to a small group. Each exposure reduces fear and builds confidence. When you stop running from discomfort, procrastination loses its power over you. Technology can be both a blessing and a curse in this battle. On one hand, apps and tools can help you organize tasks and track progress. On the other hand, endless notifications and digital temptations can fuel procrastination. The Stoic solution is mindful use. Instead of letting technology control you, set clear boundaries. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Schedule specific times to check email or social media. Use focus tools like website blockers to prevent distraction during work sessions. Remember Marcus Aurelius' advice: you have power over your mind. This includes the power to shape your digital environment in a way that supports, rather than sabotages, your goals. The psychological benefits of immediate action are profound. When you procrastinate, you carry a mental burden. The unfinished task lingers in the back of your mind, draining energy and focus. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains remember incomplete tasks more vividly than completed ones. By taking action, even a small step, you relieve that mental tension. It's like finally scratching an itch. The sense of relief and accomplishment motivates you to keep going. This creates a virtuous cycle. Action reduces stress, which makes further action easier. Over time, this cycle can replace the destructive loop of procrastination and anxiety. It's also helpful to recognize the stories we tell ourselves about procrastination. Many people secretly believe they work better under pressure. They convince themselves that last-minute panic is a productivity strategy. In reality, this is often just a justification for avoidance. While adrenaline can temporarily boost focus, the stress it creates takes a toll on your health and creativity. Imagine a student who always starts assignments the night before they're due. They might get passing grades, but they never produce their best work. Worse, they live in constant stress. The Stoic alternative is calm, consistent effort. By starting early and taking steady steps, you not only produce better results, you also live with greater peace of mind. Another common excuse is waiting for inspiration. Artists, writers, and entrepreneurs often fall into this trap. They believe they need to feel ready before they can begin. But inspiration rarely strikes out of nowhere. More often, it's a byproduct of action. A writer who sits down and types, even badly, will eventually find their flow. A painter who picks up a brush each day will stumble into moments of brilliance. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't wait for perfect motivation. They cultivated it through disciplined action. Marcus Aurelius began each day by reminding himself of his duties as a human being, even when he didn't feel like it. His writings show a man who struggled with fatigue and doubt, yet acted anyway. This is the true cure for procrastination. Not eliminating fear or discomfort, but moving forward despite them. It's worth noting that action doesn't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. In fact, small, consistent steps are often more effective than grand gestures. The Stoic ideal is steady progress. Imagine trying to climb a mountain. If you focus only on the peak, you'll feel overwhelmed. But if you take one step at a time, you eventually reach the summit. Life works the same way. Whether you're building a career, improving your health, or learning a new skill, the key is to start now with whatever resources you have. Waiting for perfect conditions is just another form of procrastination. Ultimately, overcoming procrastination is not about learning new tricks or hacks. It's about remembering what you already know and acting on it. Most people don't need more information, they need more execution. You already know that exercise is good for you, that saving money is wise, that meaningful relationships require effort. The challenge is not knowledge, but follow through. The Stoics would remind you that wisdom is worthless without action. Seneca put it bluntly, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Every day you delay, you waste a little more of the precious life you've been given. The cure is simple, though not easy. Start now. Not tomorrow, not next week now. Send the email. Make the call. Write the first sentence. Take the first step. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Don't wait for motivation. Just begin. As you act, clarity will come. Momentum will build. And with each small victory, you'll strengthen the habit of immediate action. The Stoic path is not about flawless execution. It's about consistent practice. Each day is a chance to choose action over delay, courage over fear, presence over distraction. When you look back on your life, you won't remember the moments you spent hesitating. You'll remember the moments you dared to begin. The unfinished projects, the unspoken words, the dreams you never pursued. These are the true regrets. Don't let procrastination write the story of your life. Write it yourself, starting now, because in the end, the only way to beat procrastination is to act. Not to think about acting, not to plan endlessly, but to take that first imperfect step. As the Stoics teach, the present moment is your most valuable asset. Guard it fiercely and use it well. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Excellence is not an act, but a habit." What he meant is that greatness isn't achieved through one grand gesture or a single heroic moment, but through the small, consistent actions we repeat every day. A person's character is built on their habits the way a house is built from bricks. Each decision, each behavior, is like placing one brick on top of another. Over time, those habits form the walls of your identity. This is why it's so important to pay attention to the seemingly minor things you do daily. Many people think they need to make massive changes overnight to improve their lives. In reality, transformation comes from small, steady adjustments that compound over time. Consider something as simple as brushing your teeth. It doesn't take long, it's not glamorous. But doing it twice a day for years prevents decay and disease. The same principle applies to mental and emotional habits. Forming positive habits begins with understanding how habits work. Modern psychology describes a four-step loop. Cue, action, reward, reflect. The cue is the trigger that prompts a behavior, like feeling stressed or hearing your morning alarm. The action is the behavior itself, like drinking a glass of water or checking your phone. The reward is the immediate benefit you feel, which encourages you to repeat the behavior. Reflection is the final, often overlooked step where you evaluate whether this habit is serving your long-term values. Imagine you want to develop the habit of reading more. You might set your cue as pouring a cup of coffee in the morning. As soon as you take that first sip, you open a book instead of scrolling through social media. The reward might be the satisfaction of learning something new, or even just a few peaceful moments before the chaos of the day. At night, you reflect, did this habit improve my day, or did it feel forced? This process builds self-awareness and helps you design habits intentionally, rather than letting them form by accident. Many people have habits they didn't consciously choose. Checking Instagram every time they feel bored, eating junk food when they're stressed, staying up late watching Netflix even though they need sleep. These patterns feel automatic because they were built over time without deliberate reflection. The Stoics would urge us to step back and examine these routines. Marcus Aurelius often journaled about his own tendencies, noting when he acted according to virtue and when he fell short. By shining a light on our habits, we can begin to replace destructive ones with constructive ones. Start small. If you want to wake up earlier, try setting your alarm just 15 minutes earlier for a week, then adjust gradually. If you want to exercise regularly, commit to 5 minutes a day rather than an hour. These small wins build confidence, and confidence fuels larger victories. The key to lasting habit change is identity. When you see yourself as someone who runs rather than someone trying to run, your behavior naturally aligns with that identity. This is why Marcus Aurelius spoke of excellence as a habit. It becomes who you are, not just what you do. For example, a musician doesn't practice scales because they enjoy repetitive drills. They do it because they see themselves as a musician, and practice is simply part of that identity. Similarly, if you want to become a disciplined person, focus less on forcing yourself to act and more on becoming the type of person who acts with discipline. Each time you follow through on a positive habit, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. One vote won't decide the outcome, but over time, the majority wins. Habits are especially important when facing challenges because in difficult moments, you fall back on what you've trained yourself to do. In a crisis, there's no time to develop new skills or mindsets on the spot. Imagine a firefighter running into a burning building. Their actions are automatic because they've practiced them countless times. Similarly, when life throws unexpected obstacles your way, your habits determine whether you crumble or rise to the occasion. If your default response to stress is avoidance, you'll likely procrastinate and let problems grow. If your default response is to take a deep breath and assess what you can control, you'll handle challenges with clarity and resilience. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, taught that we should not run from adversity, but embrace it as a teacher. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Challenges are inevitable. Suffering is universal. But our response is always within our control. Think about a software developer who launches a startup with big dreams. They pour their heart into building a product, work long nights, sacrifice weekends, but the company fails. At first, this feels like total devastation, a public defeat, a personal loss. Many people would quit forever at this point, telling themselves they just weren't cut out for entrepreneurship. But a Stoic-minded developer would see the failure differently. They would analyze what went wrong, identify the skills they gained like managing a team, understanding user needs, and handling pressure, and use those lessons to return stronger. Maybe their next project succeeds precisely because of what they learned in failure. The initial setback becomes the foundation for future success. Modern author Ryan Holiday captured this timeless truth in his book The Obstacle is the Way. He argues that obstacles are not roadblocks, but stepping stones. When you encounter a problem, you have three choices. You can retreat, you can stand still and complain, or you can move forward by finding a creative way around it. History is full of examples of people who turned adversity into advantage. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. J.K. Rowling faced numerous rejections before Harry Potter was published. Even in everyday life, this principle applies. A person who loses their job might see it as a disaster or as an opportunity to finally pursue a career they're passionate about. The external event is the same. The internal interpretation makes all the difference. The Stoic formula for facing challenges is simple but profound. First, identify what you can control. When disaster strikes, our instinct is to panic and flail against everything at once. This wastes energy and increases suffering. Instead, pause and ask, which part of this situation is truly within my power? Maybe you can't control the economy, but you can control your spending habits. Maybe you can't control whether others forgive you, but you can control whether you make a sincere apology. Focusing on controllable actions grounds you in reality and prevents despair. Second, find meaning in the pain. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that those who found purpose in their suffering were more likely to survive. The Stoics would agree. When you view hardship as meaningless punishment, it crushes you. But when you see it as training, as preparation for a greater role, it becomes bearable. A parent working multiple jobs might endure exhaustion by focusing on the future they're building for their children. An athlete pushing through grueling practice might focus on the growth of their character, not just their muscles. Meaning transforms suffering into fuel. Third, start small. When a problem feels overwhelming, break it down into manageable steps. This approach mirrors the habit-building process. Suppose you face a mountain of debt. If you focus on the total amount, you'll feel paralyzed. But if you focus on paying off just one small bill this month, then another next month, progress becomes possible. Similarly, if you're dealing with grief, start by simply getting out of bed, taking a shower, and eating a meal. These small actions may seem insignificant, but they create momentum. Over time, they build resilience. The connection between habits and challenges becomes clear here. Good habits prepare you for adversity before it arrives. Challenges, in turn, test and strengthen those habits. It's a virtuous cycle. Imagine a person who practices gratitude daily. When life is easy, this habit feels pleasant but maybe unnecessary. But when tragedy strikes, their habit of gratitude becomes a lifeline. Even in pain, they can find something to appreciate: a supportive friend, a moment of beauty, a lesson learned. This doesn't erase the hardship, but prevents total despair. Likewise, someone who practices mindfulness will handle stress better because they've trained their mind to stay present rather than spiraling into catastrophic thinking. Think of a soldier training for battle. They don't wait until the enemy attacks to learn how to fight. They drill relentlessly in times of peace so that when chaos erupts, their actions are automatic. Life is similar. If you cultivate habits of reflection, courage, and self-control during calm periods, you'll be ready when storms hit. If you neglect these habits, you'll be overwhelmed when adversity inevitably comes. In modern culture, we often celebrate comfort and convenience. Technology promises to eliminate every difficulty, from ordering food with a tap to streaming endless entertainment. While comfort has its benefits, too much of it can weaken us. The Stoics believed in practicing voluntary discomfort to build strength. This might mean taking a cold shower, fasting for a day, or walking instead of driving. These small challenges prepare you for larger ones. When you deliberately step outside your comfort zone, you expand it. You prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort, which makes real-world obstacles less intimidating. It's like a runner who trains with a weighted vest. When the race comes and they remove the vest, they feel light and powerful. Consider the story of a professional athlete recovering from injury. At first, the pain is unbearable and the road to recovery seems endless. But by setting small, incremental goals like walking across the room, then jogging a few steps, then running a mile, they rebuild their strength. Each milestone is both a habit and a challenge. Over time, the injury that once seemed like a curse becomes a source of resilience. Many athletes later say they wouldn't trade their injury experience because it taught them patience, humility, and determination. This mirrors the Stoic view. The obstacle becomes the way forward. To apply these ideas in your own life, start by observing your daily routines. Which habits are strengthening you? Which ones are weakening you? Be honest. Maybe scrolling on your phone for an hour before bed is sabotaging your sleep. Maybe skipping breakfast leaves you irritable and unfocused. Identify one small positive habit to build and one negative habit to reduce. For example, you might decide to journal for 5 minutes each morning and to stop checking email before noon. Track your progress and reflect regularly. When challenges arise, pay attention to how your habits either support or hinder you. Adjust as needed. This process of continuous improvement is at the heart of Stoic practice. It's also helpful to surround yourself with people who model the habits and resilience you aspire to. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of choosing companions wisely, noting that we become like the company we keep. If your friends constantly complain and avoid responsibility, you'll be tempted to do the same. If they face challenges with courage and humor, you'll be inspired to rise to their level. Community can reinforce good habits and provide support during difficult times. Modern neuroscience supports these ancient insights. Studies show that our brains are wired for neuroplasticity, the ability to change through experience. Each time you repeat a behavior, you strengthen neural pathways, making it easier to repeat that behavior in the future. This is why habits are so powerful. They literally rewire your brain. Similarly, when you face challenges and persevere, you build resilience. Like a muscle, the more you practice overcoming obstacles, the better you become at it. This scientific perspective validates the Stoic belief that we can train our minds and characters through deliberate practice. When life feels overwhelming, it's tempting to seek escape. Some people turn to substances, others to endless entertainment, others to denial. The Stoic path is harder, but more rewarding. Face reality head-on. Accept that pain is part of the human experience. Use it as raw material for growth. This doesn't mean you must enjoy suffering or pretend everything is fine. It means refusing to let hardship define you. You are more than what happens to you. You are the choices you make in response. The beauty of combining habits with a Stoic approach to challenges is that it creates a sustainable way of living. Habits give you structure and consistency. Challenges give you purpose and depth. Together, they form a life of meaning. Imagine waking up each day with a set of supportive routines, meditation, exercise, reflection that keep you grounded. Then, when unexpected difficulties arise, you meet them with strength rather than panic. Over time, each challenge you face becomes another brick in the foundation of your character. You begin to see life not as a series of random hardships, but as a training ground for virtue. In the end, every challenge you encounter is an invitation. It invites you to grow, to adapt, to discover what you're truly capable of. The habits you build determine whether you accept that invitation or turn away. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on his own struggles as emperor, wrote that obstacles are opportunities to practice the virtues you claim to value. Courage is meaningless without danger. Patience is meaningless without delay. Wisdom is meaningless without confusion. Challenges give these virtues a stage on which to shine. Each day you have a choice. You can drift through life, letting habits form by accident and running from every difficulty. Or you can live intentionally, shaping your routines and facing obstacles with a Stoic mindset. The first path leads to stagnation and regret. The second leads to growth and strength. It won't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. As Ryan Holiday writes, the obstacle is the way. Every hardship you overcome becomes part of your story, part of who you are. Over time, those hardships transform into stepping stones toward excellence. When you look back on your life, you'll see that the challenges you faced were not interruptions to your journey, they were the journey. Each struggle was a lesson, each setback a teacher. And the habits you cultivated along the way were the tools that helped you rise again and again. By combining the daily discipline of good habits with the courageous embrace of challenges, you create a life of resilience and purpose. Every obstacle, no matter how painful, becomes a brick in the foundation of your character, building a fortress of strength that no external force can destroy. Living with purpose has been one of humanity's deepest pursuits throughout history. The Stoics believe that a meaningful life must be rooted in virtue, and that without virtue, any sense of purpose is fragile and easily corrupted. They defined 4 cardinal virtues that act as guiding stars: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom is the ability to see the world clearly, to distinguish truth from illusion, and to make decisions that align with reason rather than impulse. It is not merely about knowledge, but about applying what you know to live well. In modern life, wisdom might mean taking the time to understand both sides of a debate before forming an opinion, or pausing before sending an angry text to consider the long-term consequences. It's what keeps us from being swept away by trends, fads, and emotions. Courage is often thought of as physical bravery, like a firefighter running into a burning building, but the Stoics saw it as something broader and more essential. It is the strength to act according to your values, even when it's difficult or frightening. For a modern example, courage might look like standing up to a toxic boss, speaking the truth when silence would be easier, or admitting a mistake publicly instead of hiding. It's about facing discomfort rather than running from it. Justice, the third virtue, is about fairness and treating others with respect. It's the recognition that we are all part of a shared human community. In today's terms, justice might involve speaking up when you see someone being bullied, advocating for equal opportunities at work, or simply showing kindness to a stranger. Without justice, even personal success feels hollow because it comes at the expense of others. Finally, temperance is about balance and self-control. It's the ability to enjoy pleasures without being ruled by them, to avoid excess whether in food, spending, or entertainment. Imagine someone who loves chocolate but stops after one piece, or someone who enjoys social media but sets limits to avoid wasting hours scrolling. Temperance allows us to live fully without being enslaved by desire. When you align your life with these four virtues, your purpose becomes clear. Many people struggle with the question of what they are meant to do because they are looking outside themselves for answers, chasing status, wealth, or approval. The Stoic approach is to look inward. Purpose is not something you discover like a hidden treasure. It's something you create by living in harmony with your values. A practical way to begin this process is through journaling. Marcus Aurelius's meditations were essentially his private journal, where he reflected on his actions each day and reminded himself of his principles. You can do the same by setting aside a few minutes each morning or evening to write about your intentions and reflections. Ask yourself, what did I do today that was wise, courageous, just, or temperate? Where did I fall short? What can I do better tomorrow? Over time, these small acts of reflection sharpen your understanding of what truly matters to you. Another powerful question to guide your search for purpose is, if today were my last day, how would I want to have lived? This is not meant to be morbid, but to bring clarity. When you imagine your time as finite, trivial concerns fall away. Petty arguments, material possessions, and social media likes suddenly seem unimportant. What remains are the relationships you cherish, the contributions you've made, and the kind of person you've become. Steve Jobs famously used this question as a daily practice, asking himself every morning if he would be satisfied with his actions if the day were his last. If the answer was no, too many days in a row, he knew something needed to change. This practice aligns perfectly with Stoic thought, which emphasizes the brevity of life and the urgency of living intentionally. Living with purpose also requires clearing away the clutter, both physical and mental, that distracts us from our deepest values. In a world of constant notifications, advertisements, and demands on our attention, minimalism offers a path to clarity. Minimalism is not about deprivation, it's about focus. By reducing excess, you create space for what truly matters. This applies to physical possessions, digital environments, and even relationships. Start with your physical space. A cluttered desk or messy home creates mental noise, making it harder to think clearly. Take a weekend to sort through your belongings and keep only what serves a purpose or brings you genuine joy. Donate or recycle the rest. Many people are surprised at how freeing this process feels. When your environment is simple and organized, your mind follows suit. Digital minimalism is equally important. Our devices are powerful tools, but they are also sources of endless distraction. Every notification, every buzz is like a tiny tug on your attention. Over time, this constant fragmentation erodes your ability to focus on meaningful work. Consider turning off non-essential notifications, deleting apps that add no real value, and setting specific times for checking email or social media. Instead of scrolling aimlessly, use technology deliberately to learn, to connect, to create. Cal Newport, author of Digital Minimalism, suggests asking yourself, does this tool support the life I want to live? If the answer is no, let it go. Imagine how much more purposeful your day would feel if your phone stopped dictating your every move. These changes may seem small, but they create a ripple effect. When your space is clean and your digital life is streamlined, you gain mental clarity. That clarity allows you to focus on your purpose without being constantly pulled in different directions. For example, a writer with a tidy desk and a silent phone will produce far better work than one surrounded by clutter and pings. A student who turns off notifications during study sessions will learn more effectively. Even simple actions like unsubscribing from junk emails or organizing your files can make a surprising difference. It's about creating an environment that supports your highest goals rather than undermining them. Minimalism also applies to commitments. Many people feel overwhelmed, not because they lack time, but because they've said yes to too many things. Social events, work projects, volunteer activities, all worthy on their own, but collectively they scatter your energy. The Stoic approach is to evaluate each commitment through the lens of your values. Ask yourself, does this align with my purpose? Does it help me live wisely, courageously, justly, or with temperance? If the answer is no, consider letting it go. Saying no can feel uncomfortable at first, but it's essential for living intentionally. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something truly meaningful. By simplifying your schedule, you reclaim time and energy for what matters most. A concrete example of this process might be someone who realizes their evenings are consumed by mindless TV watching. They decide to cancel a streaming subscription and use that time to learn a new skill, like playing guitar or speaking another language. Over a year, that simple change transforms their life. Or consider a professional who spends hours each day responding to non-urgent emails. By setting boundaries, checking email only twice a day, they free up time for deep, focused work that aligns with their career goals. These are not dramatic acts, but they have dramatic results because they shift your attention from noise to signal. Living with purpose does not mean every moment must be serious or productive. The Stoics valued joy and beauty, but they sought it through alignment with virtue rather than external excess. When you live simply, pleasures become more profound because they are no longer diluted by overindulgence. A single cup of coffee, savored in silence, can bring more contentment than a constant stream of luxury goods. A meaningful conversation with a friend can be richer than 100 shallow interactions online. This is the paradox of minimalism. By having less, you experience more. When your life is not cluttered with distractions, you can fully appreciate the things that remain. Modern culture often equates purpose with achievement, big careers, public recognition, financial success. The Stoic view is different. Purpose is not about what you accumulate, but about who you become. A janitor who performs their work with integrity and kindness may live more purposefully than a CEO who exploits others. What matters is not the size of your platform, but the quality of your actions. Justice reminds us to consider how our choices affect others. Courage pushes us to act even when it's difficult. Wisdom guides us to see clearly amid chaos. Temperance keeps us balanced, preventing obsession or burnout. Together, these virtues create a life of deep meaning, regardless of external circumstances. One practical way to connect with your purpose is to begin each day with a short reflection. Before diving into tasks, take a few minutes to ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? Which virtue do I want to embody? Write down your answer in a journal or simply hold it in your mind. At the end of the day, review your actions. Did they align with your intention? If not, what can you do differently tomorrow? This practice turns abstract philosophy into concrete daily action. It also creates a feedback loop. The more you reflect, the more intentional you become, and the more your purpose comes into focus. Purpose also requires resilience because life will inevitably test your commitment. There will be setbacks, temptations, and moments of doubt. This is where minimalism becomes a shield. When your life is uncluttered, you can respond to challenges with clarity. Imagine two people facing a sudden job loss. One has a simple lifestyle, low expenses, and a clear sense of purpose. The other has a chaotic schedule, heavy debt, and no clear priorities. The first person will navigate the challenge with far greater ease because their foundation is strong. By reducing unnecessary complexity, you create stability that supports you in turbulent times. Even in relationships, simplicity and virtue play a role. A life filled with superficial connections may seem exciting, but it often leaves people feeling lonely. Focusing on a few deep, meaningful relationships is more fulfilling. Justice guides you to treat these relationships with respect and fairness. Courage helps you have difficult conversations when needed. Temperance prevents you from losing yourself in codependency or obsession. Wisdom helps you choose companions who uplift you rather than drag you down. In this way, living purposefully enhances not only your own life, but also the lives of those around you. It's worth noting that minimalism is not about perfection. There will be times when clutter creeps back in, when distractions return, when you say yes to something you later regret. That's okay. The Stoic practice is about continuous improvement, not flawless execution. Each day is a new opportunity to realign with your purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, 'Today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They're like this because they do not know good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and I recognize that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own.'" This passage reminds us that even when the world is messy, we can choose clarity and virtue. In practical terms, you might start by simplifying just one area of your life this week. Clear your desk. Delete 5 unused apps from your phone. Journal for 5 minutes about what truly matters to you. Next week, expand the practice. Over time, these small acts accumulate into a life of intentionality. Purpose doesn't arrive all at once like a lightning bolt. It unfolds gradually, revealed through the choices you make every day. When you live with purpose rooted in virtue and simplicity, each action carries weight. Sending a thoughtful message to a friend becomes an act of justice. Resisting the urge to buy something unnecessary becomes an act of temperance. Speaking up against unfair treatment at work becomes an act of courage. Taking time to read and reflect becomes an act of wisdom. Even mundane tasks take on meaning because they are part of a larger whole. This is the ultimate gift of the Stoic path, a life where nothing is wasted, where even the smallest gesture contributes to the person you are becoming. In a noisy, chaotic world, it is easy to lose sight of what truly matters. But by practicing virtue and embracing simplicity, you create space to hear your own inner voice. You no longer need external validation or endless distractions to feel alive. Your purpose becomes clear, steady, and unshakable. And when you live this way, every moment becomes an opportunity to express the best version of yourself. A simple life is not a lesser life, it is a deeper one, where each choice resonates with meaning and every action, no matter how small, becomes a step toward lasting fulfillment. Life is constantly pulling us in 1,000 directions, and without a clear sense of who we are and what we stand for, it's easy to get lost in the noise. Stoicism provides a framework for cutting through that noise and focusing on what truly matters. Over the course of these lessons, we've explored 7 powerful principles that can help transform your life, not just in theory, but in practice. These are not abstract philosophical ideas meant to be admired from a distance. They are tools designed to be lived, tested, and applied, to bring them into focus. Each lesson can be distilled into a simple mantra, a short statement you can repeat to yourself whenever you feel uncertain or overwhelmed. The first lesson is about discipline. I master myself to be truly free. This reminds us that freedom doesn't mean doing whatever we want whenever we feel like it. True freedom comes from self-control. It's the ability to choose your actions deliberately, rather than being driven by impulses or outside forces. When you live with discipline, you stop being a puppet whose strings are pulled by desire or fear. You become the author of your own life. Think about professional athletes like Serena Williams or LeBron James. Their incredible achievements are not random. They're the result of years of disciplined practice, even when they didn't feel motivated. The second lesson is about beating procrastination. Now is all I have. Seneca reminded us that time is our most precious resource, yet most of us waste it carelessly. We put off important work, telling ourselves we'll start tomorrow, only to repeat the same pattern day after day. Procrastination steals our potential and fills us with stress. The cure is immediate action, no matter how small. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it now. If a project feels overwhelming, break it into smaller steps and start with the first one. Momentum builds as you move forward, and clarity comes through action, not endless planning. The third lesson is about habits. I become what I repeatedly do. Marcus Aurelius knew that excellence is not a one-time event, but a way of life. Every small choice you make shapes your character. If you want to be kind, practice kindness daily. If you want to be strong, do something challenging each day. Habits are like compound interest for the soul. Over time, small actions add up to profound transformation. Consider how a musician practices scales every day, not because each session is exciting, but because repetition builds mastery. The same principle applies to personal growth. The fourth lesson is about challenges. The obstacle is the way. Life will inevitably throw difficulties in your path. You can see these as unfair burdens, or you can see them as opportunities for growth. A failed business venture teaches resilience. A difficult breakup teaches self-reliance. A health scare teaches gratitude. Ryan Holiday's book popularized this ancient Stoic idea. Every challenge contains a hidden gift. When you stop resisting reality and start working with it, your struggles become stepping stones rather than roadblocks. The fifth lesson is about purpose and virtue. I live for what matters, not for what distracts. The Stoics believe that a meaningful life must be built on 4 core virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues act as a compass, guiding your decisions and actions. In our modern world, it's easy to get caught up in chasing external rewards. Money, fame, likes on social media while neglecting what truly matters. Minimalism, both physical and digital, helps clear away the clutter so you can focus on your highest values. A clean desk, a phone free of endless notifications, and a schedule aligned with your purpose creates space for deeper, more intentional living. The sixth lesson is about simplicity. Less noise, more clarity. Complexity is often the enemy of peace. When your environment, your commitments, and your mind are cluttered, it's hard to know what to do next. By simplifying your life, you create room for focus. This doesn't mean living like a monk or giving up everything you enjoy. It means being intentional about what you allow into your space and your mind. Instead of juggling 10 projects, focus on 3 that truly matter. Instead of constantly multitasking, give your full attention to one thing at a time. Simplicity creates the mental clarity needed to take meaningful action. The seventh and final lesson ties them all together. Each day is a stage, and I choose my role. Marcus Aurelius often described life as a play in which we are both actors and directors. You don't get to control the script. Entirely external events will happen that you cannot change. But you always control how you show up, what lines you deliver, and the attitude you bring to each scene. Even when circumstances are harsh, you can play your role with dignity and grace. This perspective turns life's chaos into art. To make these principles more than just words, here's a practical 7-day plan you can start immediately. Each day, focus on one lesson. In the morning, read the mantra aloud and write it at the top of a journal page. Throughout the day, reflect on how to embody that principle in real situations. At night, write a short reflection about what went well and what you could improve. On day 1, focus on discipline. Pay attention to moments. When you feel tempted to act impulsively, snapping at a coworker, eating junk food, skipping your workout. Pause, breathe, and choose deliberately. Even resisting one small impulse strengthens your self-mastery. Day 2 is about taking action now. Notice tasks you've been putting off. Choose one and tackle it immediately, even if you can't finish it perfectly. The goal is to break the inertia of procrastination. Use the 2-minute rule for small tasks. If it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it. Day 3 is for building habits. Pick one simple, positive habit you want to establish, like drinking a glass of water each morning, journaling for 5 minutes, or reading a single page of a book. Keep it small and consistent. The point is to prove to yourself that you can follow through. On day 4, embrace a challenge. Identify one area of your life where you feel stuck or afraid. Instead of avoiding it, take one small step toward it. If you fear public speaking, volunteer to share an idea in a meeting. If you're struggling financially, create a simple budget. Remember that growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Day 5 is about purpose. Spend 20 minutes journaling on these questions. What do I value most? What kind of person do I want to become? If today were my last day, what would matter most? Use your answers to identify one concrete change you can make to align your life with your values. Day 6 is for simplicity. Look around your physical and digital environments. Clear one space, a drawer, a folder on your computer, your phone's home screen. Remove anything that doesn't serve your purpose. Notice how much lighter you feel with less clutter. Finally, on day 7, integrate everything. Reflect on the week as a whole. Which lessons resonated most? Which habits felt natural? And which felt challenging? Decide how you will carry these practices forward into the coming weeks. Remember, this is not a one-time experiment, but the beginning of a lifelong journey. As you move through this plan, journaling is essential. Writing helps you track progress, process emotions, and stay accountable. You don't need to write perfectly. Just capture your thoughts honestly. Over time, these reflections become a record of your growth, like Marcus Aurelius's meditations. The beauty of this approach is that it turns philosophy into a daily practice. Too often, we treat wisdom as something abstract, reserved for scholars or monks. But the Stoics believed that philosophy is for everyone, especially ordinary people navigating the chaos of daily life. These lessons are not about retreating from the world, they're about engaging with it more skillfully. Living this way requires courage, because the world will often push you in the opposite direction. It will tempt you with shortcuts, distractions, and superficial rewards. But each time you choose virtue over vice, purpose over noise, you strengthen your inner foundation. You become less reactive and more intentional. You stop being tossed around by external events and start steering your own ship. It's important too. Remember that progress will not be linear. There will be days when you fall back into old habits, when you procrastinate, when you lose focus. The Stoic response is not to despair, but to begin again. Each sunrise is a fresh opportunity to live according to your values. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Gratitude for the chance to try again is itself a form of wisdom. As you integrate these practices, share your journey with others. Teaching and discussing these ideas reinforces your own understanding and inspires those around you. Like, share and subscribe to platforms or communities that support your growth. If you find value in the lessons, consider giving back through donations or super thanks. Your support helps spread these ideas further, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Life is indeed a stage, and you are both performer and playwright. You don't control every twist of the plot, but you do control how you play your part. With the 7 Stoic lessons as your guide, you can navigate the chaos with grace and purpose. Imagine looking back years from now, knowing that you didn't just drift through life reacting to whatever came your way. You lived deliberately. You chose your actions with care. You turned obstacles into opportunities and aligned your life with what truly matters. That is the promise of Stoic practice, not perfection, but progress. And it all begins with a single step taken today, in this very moment. As we come to the end of this journey, take a moment to reflect on everything you've just learned. These 7 Stoic lessons aren't just concepts to store in your mind, they are tools for transformation. Think of them as weapons in your arsenal, ready to help you battle fear, procrastination, and the chaos of modern life. Remember the mantras. I master myself to be truly free. Now is all I have. I become what I repeatedly do. The obstacle is the way. I live for what matters, not for what distracts. Less noise, more clarity. And finally, each day is a stage, and I choose my role. Imagine what your life could look like if you live by these principles every single day. No more waiting for the perfect moment. No more drifting aimlessly, pulled by other people's expectations or fleeting emotions. You would wake up each morning with a sense of direction, knowing that every decision, no matter how small, is shaping the story of your life. You would face challenges with courage, not fear, seeing them as opportunities to grow stronger. You would simplify your world, cutting away the noise so you can hear the quiet, steady voice of your purpose. But here's the truth. Nothing changes without action. Knowledge without execution is just another form of procrastination. You don't need to have the entire journey mapped out. You just need to take the first step today. Start with something small. Write in a journal for 5 minutes. Send that message you've been avoiding. Take one deep, intentional breath before responding to stress. These tiny actions are like seeds. Plant them today, nurture them tomorrow, and watch as they grow into the life you've always wanted. Remember, you're both the actor and the director of your story. You can't always control the script, but you can choose how you play your role. Will you stand frozen under the spotlight, letting fear and hesitation dictate the scene? Or will you step forward boldly, delivering your lines with purpose and conviction? The audience, your family, your friends, the world itself is waiting. More importantly, your future self is waiting. If this video has sparked something inside you, don't let that spark fade. Like this video to show your support, share it with someone who needs a reminder of their own strength, and subscribe to this channel so you can continue growing alongside a community of like-minded seekers. And if you feel moved to take your support one step further, consider using Super Thanks. Your contribution, it's your move. Step forward, act boldly, and let your life become a masterpiece of virtue, courage, and purpose.